Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today I want to have a PvP related discussion. I was going to do a big rant about why Div 2 PvP sucks and yada yada because I'm bored, honestly. But given I've already said that stuff 100 times over in, plenty of different videos, I thought I'd try something else instead. Now, this idea spawned from a conversation I was having with some of my buddies the other day while we were playing, and that boils down to this basic idea, that normalization in the Division is not how you solve the PvP player imbalance and create a more fun and fair playing environment. So that's what I want to dive into today. Before we start, as always, this is just my opinion. If you get wildly upset by my take here, then definitely head down to the comments and leave your own thoughts on the topic. I'm very curious what people will have to say about this one. But yeah, sit back, relax, and enjoy. So let's dive into it and start with this. What is the history in the current state of normalization? Well, if I'm recalling correctly, normalization was first introduced in the Division 1's 1.6 update as a way to balance out the PvP game modes in that game, beginning with Last Stand, and then later being implemented as well into Skirmish. And the way it worked in that game was that it just boosted all of the stats on your gear to their maximum value. So classifieds had a distinct advantage over high ends, but basically everything you wore was just buffed up to the max. Now in Division 2, normalization was a feature from launch, and it kind of compounded on top of the other issues with PvP to create the highly contentious feature that it was back at launch, and, to a degree still is. Back then, it was present in 2 out of 3 of the Dark Zones and all of the conflict modes, and to be honest, I don't fully know or remember how it worked. I think it was slightly different than Division 1's, but ultimately, its goal, even though it didn't really work out, was to even out the playing field in PvP, which, I think it failed pretty miserably at, but we'll get back to that. Now, current day, normalization is gone from the DZs. That happened back in TU8 and was, believe it or not, Massive's decision and implementation. So say what you will about Massive, sucking at PvP development, but they actually created the initiative to make the DZs for PvPers again, which I commend. Now, the thing is, I don't really know if it's still in conflict or not. I mean, I feel like whenever I'm in there, my builds feel slightly off, so I couldn't really tell you. The confusing thing is that there's still a toggle for PvP stats in your menu, and it's automatically turned on in Conflict and the non-invaded DZs. Now, that displays the PvP versions of talents, which is not normalization, by the way. I have no issue with them tweaking talents to be more balanced in PvP. That's a separate issue. But overall, my issue is that normalization at this stage feels like another one of those relics from year 1, and its remaining, semi-inclusion in the game creates a lot of uncertainty for me personally. Now, I don't know if the devs plan to try and reintroduce normalization in the Division 3 one day down the road, but in this video, I want to state my case for why I think that would be a waste of resources, and suggest where those resources could better be spent to try and create an actually more fair and fun PvP experience. So why do I think normalization is bad? Well, there's 2 big reasons. One is that, and I say this in quotes, balancing out player gear rarely actually helps an inexperienced Division PvP player win any fights, and we'll come back to this. And 2, it removes the fun factor of incrementally increasing your power of your own build and being able to actually feel yourself getting stronger. Whether your stats are boosted up or lower down from normalization, you just lose that freedom of advantage from your build. That's why I like the DZ so much in Div 1 and the invaded one in Div 2, is that it's just your own build. And I really like the freedom of that, because it's you putting your brain to the test if you can make a build that's good enough to have an edge over other people in the game. So I like that a lot, and you lose that when normalization comes into play. So what do I think they should replace it with to help create a more fair playing field? I think that in future Division projects, the devs should take the time to create a repeatable and re-accessible tutorial that teaches the player what the gameplay of PvP feels like, because we all know that it's very different from PvE. Because let's be real, you can give someone who's played the game for 2 hours the best build in the world, but as soon as they try to play PvP the same way they play PvE, they die. Builds essentially become inconsequential when you don't understand you're putting yourself at a disadvantage by playing PvP like a cover shooter. And this leads me back to a statement that, oh boy, here we go, Marco Style made way back when the game launched. Now I know a lot of people hate Marco, and that's fair and fine. The only reason I bring him up is because this statement he made is very relevant, and so, forget it's even him saying it if you please. Here it is, I'm going to play it quick, and his video will be linked in the description if you want to go watch it.
I feel like the PvP in this game was made to please the PvE players and the more casual audience. And as a result, the more hardcore player base that likes PvP isn't going to play it. And the PvE audience is still not going to play PvP because they don't like PvP to begin with. So now no one is enjoying the PvP.
So in essence, normalization is an extension of the PvE and casual catering design that influenced how PvP was made fundamentally in this game. But like I said before, and like Marco just said in that statement, the reason PvE-oriented people and, people new to the franchise often don't enjoy PvP isn't because they're unable to get a good build, it's because it feels like you're playing an entirely different game in terms of, how you have to play to succeed. And the game doesn't do anything to teach you those differences, and so you go in there and you just feel like, it's a terrible experience because there's no way you can know unless you watch videos or you watch other things going in that that's what you're going to find in there. Now, the actual discussion of Division PvP gameplay is certainly a very different topic than this one. Personally, I really enjoy Division PvP. That's pretty obvious from my content. So we're going to skip past that for now. But in my opinion, the devs shot themselves in the foot and wasted development time by trying to create a PvP experience that caters to non-PvP players. And in the process, they ended up alienating the core PvP audience and failing to attract PvE players because they still didn't want to participate in it in the first place, And like I said, normalization is an extension of that by messing with the power and viability of your build, whereas I think it's most fun to have a free-for-all sandbox that allows for full build potential. And again, just to be clear, that does not include PvP talent adjustments. I think those are completely valid and needed in order to keep things balanced, so that's a whole separate thing there. So what do I suggest? For Division 3, or whatever future project might come along, I really think they should design PvP in a manner that will satisfy your hardcore PvP audience. I don't even have to explain what that is, because I think they and most of you know what it is. I've said this before, but they can try as hard as they want to force you to play this game like a cover shooter, to limit your movement, to limit how much you can be out of cover without taking damage, removing burst heals, yada yada, but at the end of the day, people are always going to find a way to play that way. They're always going to find a way to mimic Division 1's PvP style, even if it's not nearly as successful, because that's simply more fun. So I think at this point, they should stop trying to hinder it so much and just accept it and build around that to make it more balanced and make it more fun and not treat it like it's the ugly stepchild that you don't want to interact with. Like, just make it a part of your game and embrace it and make it better. But beyond that, instead of messing with that experience and trying to appease to others, provide them with ways to learn about how PvP players do play PvP, and then give them the option to try it out and see whether they like it or not. So what would this look like? I think that the DZ unlock missions were a good start. I mean, they teach you about the mechanics of the DZ, etc., but it doesn't give you a good sense of how to PvP, which I think is the most vital component that's missing there. I think they should try adding in AI rogue agents that have similar damage, armor, and overall builds to the players. Program them in such a way where they play like PvP players do. Add some light strafing to dodge your fire, have them use cover to their advantage by blocking shots and then moving out of it. You get the idea. This could be incorporated into the DZ unlock missions, or maybe a secondary tutorial. That way it could be more replayable than the DZ ones are. Have the mode give you hints for not bunkering and cover for too long so that you just get shot. Be aware of your surroundings, be quick on your feet. Have it be so you can turn up and down the number of players and AIs they throw at you to try and beat, and change the environment so that the players gain more expertise about what they're learning. And what this would ultimately do is give new players a realistic look at what they're in for. If they play that tutorial and then decide that PvP isn't for them, that's okay. Because what has happened now is that they've tried to make the decision for the players that PvP is going to be for everyone. And in the process, they ended up causing huge numbers of hardcore Div 1 PvP players to leave, and they didn't really draw in that many new PvE players. So, in the end, like Marco Style said, no one won. But now if someone plays this tutorial and is like, okay, this could be fun, now they won't be hit by such a huge shock once they encounter someone and fight someone in the DZ or in conflict. And hopefully if they die, they can say, okay, well, I know what I could have done to improve there. And then they can go about practicing further, whether it's in the actual Dark Zone or going back to that tutorial and trying that out, or they can go for a better build that actually complements PvP playstyle. Because right now, you'll see someone go into the DZ with like Composure on their backpack and like Entrench on their chest piece, and you're just going to get nowhere far with that. You're going to get melted. You're going to get destroyed. And that's what leads people to be like, oh, well, this sucks. Because they have no clue what they're going into, and the game doesn't do any sort of a job in preparing you for that or giving you tips of how to prepare. So ultimately, I think that would be a million times better than a normalization system where it throws you in with a good build, but with no clue of how to actually succeed in the gameplay and mechanics of PvP. Okay guys, well I think that's going to wrap up my thoughts on normalization and the approach to PvP development overall. Sorry if that was a bit long-winded, hopefully I thoroughly explained my viewpoint at each section. And yeah, like I said earlier, I'm super curious to hear hear what you all think. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe with notifications on so you can be updated every time I upload. Leave your thoughts on the subject down below, and if there are any other Division topics you want to hear my thoughts on in the coming weeks as we sludge our way towards E3 and the next Ubisoft Forward, where hopefully we can start to get a glimpse of what the coming Year 3 content might entail. But thanks again everyone, I hope you have a wonderful day, and until the next one guys, RogueGold out.